Leslie. Oh, I'm glad y'all made it. Thank you for showing up. Y'all have had some new things. I got an email earlier today, and I got one, I guess, Monday or Tuesday, about the videos on the blog posts and in the emails. I hope that those are proving helpful. I haven't graduated to scripted video yet, so everything's a little bit off the cuff. I have I have a plan for what I want to cover, so they're not terribly scripted, and I don't know if that's distracting or not, but hopefully they're giving you an idea of what we want to do with the lessons and inspiring you to get started and to feel like that it is something that you can do. So that was a new thing this time around, and I think I'll probably keep it, and I'll just tweak it and try to do that better for the next prayer challenge that we're going to do in June. We won't have another one until June, so we're going to do one in June and then another one in October. So in October we'll get this all figured out before all the holidays get started. So that's kind of the plan for this year. Look, all my lighting just changed. Y'all can see I'm in my house. My lighting in the house is not a whole lot better than it was outside. So I hope you can see. I hope you can hear. Lots of y'all shared what you wrote about. You wrote about what was difficult. Hello, Debbie. You wrote about, sometimes it's a little hard to make it flow, and that's okay, because this is a learning process. Some of this is new to a lot of us, the using scripture to write our prayers and to frame those. And that, even though I'm very welcome to the idea, it's still not readily what I do, but this has helped me so much. And I'm taking the verses that apply to one aspect and focusing on those from Proverbs 31 has helped me to better voice what I'm asking God about helping me with as being a wife. I can all day long say, help me to be a better wife, be a better mother, be a better helper to other people, but that's really very generic. And breaking these verses down has given me a little bit more to say, so that I'm actually being specific, which helps me too. Obviously, God knows what I'm asking for, but it helps me anytime that we're trying to make plans and we have intentions for things. We're always going to do better if we are deliberate and specific about them. Goals only get met when you are specific about them. And if you've been doing the scripture writing with us this month, quite a few of our diligence scriptures that we wrote every day talked about having a plan and doing this before that. Well, if you're going to do this before that, you have to have thought about it. So that deliberate, we can't just go, well, okay, in 2 years I want to build a house and we want to move, and then that's going to happen. What needs to happen now so that can happen then? And the same thing goes for the intention in our spiritual lives. I have no doubt. Again, nothing is supposed to be accidental. These are things that we are supposed to be intentional, giving our effort towards. And the only way I'm going to be better about helping others is by my trying to figure out what I'm going to try and start trying to be better in that way. Where am I lacking? What could I do better? And realizing in some cases the season that we're in, there are just some things that we may not be able to do because it's the season that we're in. Either our health hinders us from being able to do things, our finances hinder us from being able to do some things. When you're raising children and you have small, tiny children, it's very good for them to see you helping other people. But at the same time, when you got little kids with runny noses and all that kind of stuff, you're really not the best person to take a whole mess of stuff over to an older person whose immune system is on the wearing out side, not on the building up side. And so, so those things have to be deliberately planned if you're going to be that person, and stuff. So those things have to be thought about, but there's always something to do. Did you all find that when you were looking at the verses and thinking about this today? did it strike you how many opportunities you should be able to come up with? I always go back to thinking about the widows in 1 Timothy 5. And what did Paul tell for the young women to be doing? Because they were giving themselves up to gossip and they were getting into trouble, sitting around being idle. And he told them to get busy. Well, what did he tell them to get busy? First, get married, have children, and keep a house. That by itself is a lot of work. And then they need to be doing good works for other people. And you've got the older widow, who is an example before that, and she is an example of someone who's already done all these things, and she's already got this in her repertoire of behavior. This is her characters, that she is one who has been known to offer hospitality to strangers. She's been known to take care of the needy. She's known by those actions. But she didn't just wake up one day and be those things. She had to learn. My mom always taught me, Mom was not the greatest cook. I mean, we all got fed. She wasn't the greatest cook. But she was completely self-taught because my grandmother did not cook. She and my grandfather did not have much money, but they had enough money to employ a Mexican cook because Toto did not cook. And she could make enchiladas, was the only thing that cook had taught Toto to make, and she could make sandwiches. So she was not equipped to teach her daughters to cook. Now, she was good at teaching them other things. She actually taught etiquette classes and classes on modeling and deportment and stuff. So if you wanted to know how to walk like a lady and behave like a lady in the 50s and the 60s, my grandmother could teach you those things. She just couldn't teach you how to cook. So when my mom married my dad, she had to learn how to do those things, and she had to teach herself, and she had to learn how to cook on a budget the way that he wanted to eat, and stuff. So some of this, it just doesn't come natural. By the time all of us kids came along, my mother could open a refrigerator and it didn't matter what was in it, she could put something together. I'd look at the refrigerator and go, there's no food there. My mother looked at the refrigerator and went, sure there is, and there's a casserole, and then bang, we have a whole casserole. She did that after I gave birth to our first daughter. She came in and I apologized. I said I had not been to the store. Brian's not had time to go to the store. And she opened it up. She found, I don't know what, she found chicken and, I don't know, taco stuff and cheese and all this, and she put it all together and she made a casserole. So, I know, Michelle, that's high on my list. I debate, do I want to cook or do I want a maid? I mean, I do have maids and my children, but it's hard. I would like somebody else to think about food. I would love to give up worrying about food. That is a hard thing for me. So, hello, ladies. I'm so glad you got to join us. So we're talking about praying about what we need to do better this year. So I don't know. What was think about last year. What is the thing that you said over and over, why can I just not do that better? As far as just taking care of other people. Something that you know you can do, but you just were never prepared to do. Was it having that meal already in the freezer that was ready to go? Was it having your house organized in as far as your activities go so that you could be flexible? Schedules are great, but the best thing about schedules is when you have things all scheduled and things follow one, you actually have room to navigate, and you can be very flexible about things because you know how much time it takes to get things done, and you can kind of fly off the cuff if you need to. If something comes up last minute, someone dies and you need to help get food to the family, or you need to go shopping for someone or something like that. So this woman, I hope that in your prayers that you were able to word those things, but also to do it without feeling pressure to do all of the things that she does all at once. In her description of things, she takes care of home first. The woman in Proverbs 31 does. When she gets up she doesn't rise while it's still night to go take care of the needy. She rises while it's still night to give food to her household and to give portions to her maidens, to dole out the work to those that are her maidens. And so she takes care of home, but then because she has home taken care of, it allows her to reach out her hand to the needy, and she's prepared for that. So Michelle says, I hate calling people on the phone, but I think it would be so encouraging to just visit with some of the older ladies for a few minutes. They don't Facebook and text. That's correct. Although there are some that text. We have a couple of elderly women although they would hate it if I called them that, who are text crazy. They don't Facebook, but they text and they Instagram, and it is hilarious. But you're right, but they love that. They also love snail mail. And because the art of handwriting and writing letters, that's what they know. And they still love to receive those things. They like to receive cards. And I get frustrated because I have a whole bin full of cards for that express purpose. The box is full because I'm not writing in them. I used to be good about birthday cards for everybody. If I knew when your birthday was, you got a card from me. Used to be good about sending out cards to young men that participated in the worship services, thanking them, for doing that, and things like that. It takes a lot of brain power to think to do that, to remember what they did, and then to write a coherent statement. So I have allowed how I feel to get in the way of my doing that. And even if I only do it for one, I still need to do it. It shouldn't be something that I don't do because I can't do it for all. I need to do it for at least one. So, yes, Debbie, you should be a resource. That's the season that you're in now. You have all of this practice and all of these experiences and this knowledge and practical application of how to love your husband and to love your family and how to actively do that. And you absolutely can be a good resource for those young women. And it would encourage the young women to come to you if you will go to them, showing them your eagerness to share. I think a lot of times we as young women, we should ask for help more. But we've probably been told by several that, don't worry about that. You can figure that out. And it would be very encouraging to find the woman that if you went and asked, she'd go, sure, I'd love to teach you how to make that recipe. Or I'd love to show you how, figure out a way to help you organize your cabinets to save time. Or I'd show you how to, knit a blanket for a baby, or how to stitch a receiving blanket in 10 minutes, something like that. Ideas for how to get meals together for the elderly and how to be organized and do that. You got tons of things that you can share for that. So I hope that you can see. I think you'll notice that I put 25 and 26 out of our chapter on every day. I think because this is why she does these things. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. This woman has put on the word. She has learned what God has taught, and because she's learned what he said, it makes her behave in this way. So this is what we need. That's where you start. If you don't know what to do, pick up your Bible and look at what God tells you to do. If you are a young wife, it doesn't matter if you're a young widow who's remarried or a young wife, you look at Proverbs 31, you look at 1 Timothy chapter 5, you look at Titus 2, and go, what does God want me to be busy doing? He's very clear. And then if you want to fill in the details for how you can get all of that done, you've got a lot of room to maneuver. But it's just, he gives us all of the answers. We just have to go looking for them. So, let's see. I think, Michelle, my card focus this year is just to remember the ladies' birthdays. That's a beautiful thing. I did that one year, and I made a point to do it with people who I had not had a lot of interaction with to that point, because we moved away and then we came back. So there were a lot of people who really didn't know me, and I did not know them well. And I did that for several months and did that, and the response was just amazing. They were so touched and so appreciative of being thought of that it just made me sad that I hadn't done it sooner. Because it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is that big of a deal. So you'll have to let me know how well you do that. My poor children, they're peeking out the door to see if it's safe to come out. Yes, thanking your leaders and the teachers, they need to hear that. One thing I thought of last year that I need to do this year, I need to thank, we have quite a few, every month we have a different family who prepares the Lord's Supper and participates in cleaning the building. And I need to send thank you notes for that. The building's a big job. I mean, it's just, you just do it once a week and all that, but it's a big building to get it cleaned up. And preparing the Lord's Supper, giving that thought and that intention to making sure that that's ready. I need to be sending notes thanking them to do that, especially considering that I appreciate that a great deal. That's a big deal to me. I was taught that those are things that, because we have spent the Lord's money on those things, and because the Lord's Supper is so important in that remembrance, that there can be an added element to that you can bring to it in your giving by exerting the effort beforehand to prepare the bread if you're inclined to cook the bread, and go through that process where you have already brought days to that, and doing it in order to serve all of your brethren in that way. I think that's just an amazing thing, and it's a part that we can play that a lot of people don't take notice of and stuff. So that's something I need to work on for this year. So, and it's just, it can be an amazing thing, and it seems like such a small thing, but cards are it's a big thing. So if you have nothing else to do that. You can hand them out if you don't have the means to buy stamps for as many people as you have to contact. But even at that, a roll of stamps for last you a long time, and it's significantly cheaper than a lot of other things that you might want to do, and it'll go a long way to give you a connection to people. So it's very much a good thing. Everybody wants to be thought of, and anybody taking the time to write something, to put in some effort that somebody else receives is important. It doesn't have to be a clean sink, even though a clean sink's a big deal. But a card is a lot, and people can live on that, thrive on that one card for a long time when they're in a lot of negative zone. So I would encourage you that if that's something that you're good at, that you've got the ability to do that, you can get cheap little blank cards and give those out for people. That'd be a great way to get started, and it is a service that you can do. I was gonna say in the avenue of keeping our homes. I don't know if I told those who were in the prayer challenge in November. I don't remember if I told you all about this or not, but there was a time when we had our first little house, and our two oldest girls were both very little. They're only 15 months apart. They were, I think the second one was, if she'd been born in April, so she was just a few months old at Christmas time. And I hated washing dishes. Hated it. I'd leave my sink full of stuff because I wanted to spend time with Brian when he was home. He worked long days, and my children would go down to bed at 8 o'clock, and he'd be home, and the last thing I wanted to do was be washing dishes. So I'd leave them for in the morning for after he went to work. Well, but that meant they were there in the morning, and then I hated them even more. But there was one day that it was just a light bulb in my head went off when I read Colossians 3:17. And it said, whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through him to God the Father. Now, in this context is overlapping spiritual things as well as everyday things. It's your spiritual walk in the middle of everyday things. And it struck me that washing those dishes is a way that I serve. In that case, it's the way I serve my family. But it is also, as an extension of that, it's how I serve God. So the way I left my dishes in the sink was reflective of how I was serving him. I was dismissive of that job that was mine to do. And I got really upset with myself over that. And so I challenged myself to wash the dishes every night for a week. And it turned out that I loved that. I applied myself to it. The dishes were clean. My kitchen was clean. And we've kept, my sink is clean every night. I don't do it anymore, but the girls do. But making sure that my husband doesn't walk through to an already dirty kitchen, and I'm not waking up to a dirty kitchen and already weighed down with more stuff to do, and applying that effort. And then when I was gifted a dishwasher, I actually told my husband that I don't know that I want it, because I had this figured out and it was working, and I was very much giving that time to the Lord in serving. And there are so many things like that. It's a mundane task. It's ironing, it's dusting, it's running to the store, but it's all ways that we serve. So how can you extend that to somebody else? Is there some way that in your purview, in what you can do, and it may be that in your season that all of those notes that you all are talking about, maybe that's what you can do. And going and visiting. There was a time when a couple of congregations that we were at, that we would get groups of people together to go sing. We would gather up songbooks from the building, and we would just go wherever we had members of the church who were no longer able to get out. And we would go to the nursing homes or to their homes where they were. And at the nursing homes, then we would just invite anybody to come, and we would just go and sing with them. And we were able to do that, and we got that going. We did that for over a year, I think, in Arkansas. And then we moved again. And we started it again in Indiana, but then moved again and stuff. But then I haven't had the energy to steamroll that since then. But I miss those kind of things where you had just once a month that you would go, and they knew to expect it, and they got that attention, and we all got that interaction. And it was really a pretty small thing. I mean, it's gathering the books, and now we just keep stock. We have a cabinet full of songbooks, so we can just take them with us, kind of thing. And it's just doing it, and getting out there and doing it. And our kids would go, and they would pass the books out, and they would participate. Those who were there who knew songs, you could invite them to pick a song if they knew of one, and if we had it in the songbook, we'd sing it, and pull that out. So there's so many things that you can do, and I want us to. This is a prayer challenge, right? This is a prayer challenge. We're praying for opportunities, but without doubt, we need to not diminish the power of prayer. Sometimes we say, well, all I can do is pray. That's the first thing you need to do anyway. So it's not all you can do. It's something very important that you can do. The fervent prayer does a lot. So if you are a God-fearing person and you are praying on behalf of others, your prayer is impactful for them. What did it do? We were talking in Bible class tonight. We're going through the book of Numbers. How many times did Moses intercede for Israel? And it was Moses going, basically praying to God. God's going, I'm going to destroy them. I'm tired. These people are rebellious and they're complaining. I'm just going to wipe them out. Justifiably so. And Moses steps in and he prays to God. He talks to God and says, but you've promised, you have given an example to the people, and he reminds God of those things. Did Moses' interaction make a difference for Israel? Yes. One man conversation with God, speaking what God had already spoken. He didn't speak new promises. He didn't reprimand God. He just reminded God of promises that he'd already made. What does Jesus tell us to do in that example that we learned about on Monday? First thing he tells you to say after you acknowledge who God is, first thing you do is acknowledge the promises that God has made and that he has kept. And it specifically makes reference to the Lord's church, right? You acknowledge that God has made these promises, and in that you're reminding him that he's made those promises, and you're connected by that knowledge. And it makes a difference. So prayer is not a small thing. Yes, Leslie, praying is the most you can do for others. And you know, how personal is this? You know, I've asked you all to share your writings, and I know that that's hard for some of you. It's personal. Prayer is personal. You can't help but think more kindly towards someone if you're praying for them, even when you're praying about your frustrations with them. It makes them more human, because you have to be human to have that prayer. You have to be humbled to go to God and go, okay, you're bigger than me, you're in charge, and you have to give it over. It's very personal, and it's more personal than a lot of these other things that we can do. All of those things have personal touches, but they all have a little bit of distance to them that prayer does not have. Prayer is very, very personal, very humbling. And if we can pray first for all of those people, I think we would find what we can do for them, because we'll become more aware of them, and we'll become more aware of their needs and what we can do. So don't ever dismiss it as, well, my health is so poor and all I can do is sit around my house because I don't feel well enough to leave. I got news for you. I'm very blessed if the only thing I can do if I'm laying in my bed of a morning, if all I can do is pray, because I can't focus on TV, I can't read, but all I can do is pray. Well, good grief. What a blessing. I can have 4 hours of prayer. My children are doing their school and I'm just laying in bed and nobody needs me. I can pray. I don't get that luxury when I'm up and I'm energetic and I've got all of these places to be and all of that. So it could be that your season of what seems like a hindrance is a blessing to you. And I think we have to look at it that way. How can I use this? What opportunities am I given? Even though it doesn't fit the mold of what the world says is active and busy and productive. What does God say is productive? God says praying is productive. So start praying. So, right. Who can do more than God? If I don't know what their needs are, he does. And I can pray to him and then he'll take care of that. I don't have to know what they are. We don't have to take that responsibility on ourselves. The responsibility is to pray and to consider and to care enough that you're going to make that effort. So anyway, so that is what we did today, was praying for others. Tomorrow, we only have 2 days left. Man, anybody else think this goes by really fast? I feel like we barely get started and we're done. Because tomorrow is day 4, and tomorrow we are gonna look at a lot of verses. It struck me how many of these verses in Proverbs 31 deal with this topic. And we are going to be praying about being a woman who has a hand in the physical provision for the household. And not even just for the household, but then beyond. But being able to earn an income, and again, and I mentioned it in the lesson, it's not taking anything away from what the husband does and his being the provider. She's doing all of this in her scope of keeping those things running. His is a different scope. And figuring that out. But there's a lot of verses. That's a long list of verses out of this context in Proverbs 31 that gives us examples of how she was able to bring an income in. And somewhere in all of our society's confusion. We went from women are supposed to do nothing. I totally agree with that home is where we belong. But it's like, what do you mean by that? Home is where our focus should be. And even the women who are screaming for women to have careers, it's at the neglect of the home. The home is to be wasted. And even when they do that, they're very particular what they want you to do. They want you to do these jobs that are more like what the men have. And all of these things that this woman in Proverbs 31 does really doesn't get a lot of honor. And it's just silly. She does a lot of stuff. She has a lot of knowledge. She has gained a lot of skill that the end result of it is to bring income into the home. And so that's what the prayer focus is tomorrow, is to look at how you can do that. It may be as simple as, what kind of a steward are you? How do you manage what is yours to manage? How well do you budget? Do you spend well? Where do you spend your money? And that's right, keeping the cook paid, and all of my minions, So absolutely, Michelle, we share a brain. But yeah. Yes, he keeps Mama happy. I mean, I tell Brian every day, my life is defined by between the Lord and my man. I am a blessed woman. I am fortunate in my circumstances that I get to stay home with our 5 daughters. I get to homeschool them. He goes out, he is our single income, and we have lived on one income ever since our middle one was born. I worked full-time with the oldest 2 and part-time while I was pregnant with her for a little while, and then when I was pregnant I couldn't. But ever since we gave birth to her, he's had one job, and that's been the only income that we've had. Regular, income. And there are a lot of ways, looking back now, there are a lot of things that I could have done better. I managed all of the funds, and I was in charge of writing the checks and making sure it all got where it was supposed to. But a little bit of knowledge would have helped us along the way. And I could have grown in that. Well, I'm growing in that now, and getting better about that. But my being here is not the only way to do that. The other thing is we have started this avenue of this whole blog thing, and trying to add that. And there was a whole lot of guilt with that when we started it, Well, that was silly because I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm adding to our family. And for me, this is an avenue that I get to serve. If I didn't have this avenue to talk with you all, I would be at home and be a hermit and not be having a whole lot of spiritual interaction. And this fills a void for me, and it gives me the chance to get to know you all. So I've been able to use that avenue to fulfill many of these scriptures where before I didn't think that was open to me. So you can come out, just don't let a dog out. You can come, just don't let the dog out. Huh? Okay. Well, so my children are needing to actually pass through the house. So, but anyway, so that's what we're doing for tomorrow. Same form, same basic prayer form, and just a new set of scriptures to consider. And I hope that you all find that easy to do. So I have gone on. I'm not even watching the time. What time is it? It's 9:35. And I feel like I kind of need to make up for it. You kind of got gypped yesterday. I think it was, 10 minutes? Since I couldn't see what was going on. And all of that. So, but I hope that you are finding this encouraging, and that you are finding this empowering in the way God wants you to be empowered. Those of us that we've got little ones at home, He gave you skills. He gave you capability to handle them and the difficulties that come with having a lot of them underfoot, and managing for your man as he's coming and going. And it can feel very overwhelming, but He made you to be able to do that. And this week is to help you pray for that, to remind you so that your faith is built, that the woman that He made you to be, if you will be her, then you will soar. And it will be because God is helping you to fly in that realm. And my life has been very much blessed that way. Just doing what he's told me to do. Reading the scriptures, that's my guidebook, working to be that woman, not trying to be a woman that somebody else has a definition of. Just being the woman that he defines, and he's looking for. And it should be freeing to you, and in your season that you can still do that, whatever your season is. Tiny children at home, no children at home. It's a different season, but it doesn't have to be a overly quiet one, and certainly does not have to be an idle season. You can get a lot done where you are. So, all right. Carol asked, "Can we watch these again, or is it gone?" No, they will be here. I don't make them go away, but I will also, I'll upload them to YouTube, just like I have the other ones. And when all 5 of them are up on YouTube, I make them into a grouping that you can watch, and so you can always get them on my YouTube channel. You can just look for The Diligent Woman on YouTube. So weird. I have a YouTube channel, guys. But you can always get them there. But I leave these events up. I don't close them. A lot of other kinds of events I do. But you can even go back and watch the videos from the ones we did last year. And still watch those videos. Of course, if you go watch the holiday one, there's 2 of them that are like in 2 pieces because my Wi-Fi kept dropping out. So, but yes, you can go back and watch any of them. They don't just go away. So, before I go, does anybody have any questions? Is there anything about the whole process that's giving you trouble that you could use some explanation on? Or concepts that way. I'm always very cognizant of the fact that just because I write it doesn't mean it makes sense to those who read it, because it made sense in my head, but it doesn't mean I translated it well. So I don't, it's not, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you go, that didn't make any sense at all, because you're not in my head. So that's how it made sense in my head. So if I need to explain it, I'm perfectly glad to do that. So, oh, thank you, Michelle. I am so glad to have you here. And I'm having fun getting to know you this way. You and I have to get together sometime. I would love it if there was some way that we could all, meet in this world, Lord willing. But we'll take this wonderful chance that we have. Just think, not even 20 years ago, you couldn't do this. 25 years ago, you could chat room. But you couldn't do this and stuff. So this is a pretty cool thing. It makes the world much smaller. So I'm going to let you all go. I'm going to let my children free so they can let the dogs out. And no, you're not far away. I think you're about 5 hours from me, and stuff. So we'll have to see what we can do about that. But in the meantime, Lord willing, y'all will have me in your email again in the morning, and then we will meet back here tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Central Time. I will be here, and hopefully see you all then. So thank you for being here. We'll talk to you later. Bye.